Hello and welcome to the Tainted Tavern. And did you notice the thumbnail to this video? And just in case you don't, I'm putting a picture up here, or there, whatever, when I get to editing this video. And that shows the wonderful Glen Marnoch Distillery, but it doesn't exist. So this photograph that you're looking at now is thanks to the magic of artificial intelligence. But I'm looking at the picture when I'm talking, it's looking straight into the lens of the camera here. The picture behind on my screen is the picture that I'm talking about. What a lovely place that doesn't exist, an imaginary place. Pity it didn't exist. It's beautiful, isn't it? The way the building with the turrets, the smoke coming out of those stems there, the lovely golden light coming out of the distillery itself where the lights are on, the little bridge running over the stream, and the stream gently meandering down alongside the distillery, the heather growing on the banks. It's someone that doesn't exist. It's purely imaginary. And this whiskey I'm drinking here in the glass, it in a sense doesn't exist either, because if you take that this is Glen Marnoch, so it came from the Glen Marnoch distillery, a distillery that doesn't exist, that is imaginary, it's just a brand name, then in a sense this whiskey I'm drinking here is imaginary also. Let's talk about that. And welcome to the Tainted Tavern. Let's get comfortable here. And today we've got a whiskey review for you. This is a budget whiskey review. So as this is a whiskey review, it would be remiss if I didn't mention my new book, A Dark History of Whiskey by Gary Dobbs, which is available now anywhere good books are sold. This is a whiskey book like no other. So that's A Dark History of Whiskey. We're going to do a budget whiskey, and this is the Glen Marnoch Highland Single Malt from budget supermarket Aldi's. It comes in a rather attractive tube here, so if you want to get a present on a budget for someone, then look no further. But it's an Highland Single Malt whiskey. It's actually got an age statement on here, which surprised me, because usually this type of supermarket whiskey, which is sourced from whatever distillery, it's usually sold NAS, that's no age statement. But this on here has got an age statement, although it's just says 3-year maturation, which is the legal limit for whiskey. For Scotch to be Scotch whiskey, it has to be aged for 3 years. So it's at the lower edge of the age statement. But as I say now, it does come in a rather attractive tube, so it looks a lot more premium than what it is. There are various awards here on the tube, so it tells us that it won the International Spirit Awards. It took a gold in 2024. It also took a gold in the World Whiskey Awards. And then again, it took the Spirits and Business Global Scotch Whisky Masters. It took a gold for that, and that was in 2024 as well. So let's pop it open. So there we have it. So it's just a basic straightforward bottle, not unattractive though in its design. It's a single malt. Now we don't know where this come from. We don't know what distillery this comes from, because Glen Marnoch is not a distillery. Glen Marnoch is the name that Aldi uses to brand its whiskey, the same as Lidl with the Van Bracken range. So we don't know where this come from, but I put this into the internet to see if there are any hints at all about the origins of Glen Marnoch, and this is what I got up, and I just read it straight from the screen. So what it tells me is that it comes from an Highland distillery. We knew that from the bottle, and Highland distilleries generally produce lighter honeyed whiskies. Many whiskey experts, when talking about Glen Marnoch, point to Glen Spey or Macduff, because they tend to produce gentle, sweet Highland malts that match, apparently, the flavour profile of Glen Marnoch. Just getting it open here. There's also some who believe that it could in fact come from one of the budget-friendly Highland distilleries such as Glen Marnoch, Ben Nevis or Milburn, and all have been rumoured as the source for the Glen Marnoch Aldi Single Malt expression. But you know, what can you say? I mean, I was shocked. Now, I've never drunk this before. This is new to me. But I did drink the little Ben Bracken, the Islay expression, the peated expression, and I'm used to peated whiskies. And I really enjoyed it. But let's pop open this Glen Marnoch and give it a taste. First of all, when I'll drink this whiskey when I'm relaxing of an evening on the rocks over ice. That's how I will drink it. That's how I drink my whiskey. That's how I enjoy my whiskey. But for this tasting, first of all, I'm going to taste it neat. Nothing at all, just straight into the glass, just pure whiskey. Then I'll add a splash of water to break it up a little, and then finally I'll taste it with a little bit of ice. But usually when I'm drinking this, I would take it over the rocks. The bottle tells us it's a product of Scotland, obviously. It's a single malt Scotch whiskey. It's had 3-year maturation. It comes in at an ABV of 40%. A rich, mellow Highland single malt whiskey with notes of cinnamon and dried fruit from oak cask maturation. So anyway, let's give that a thing. Now the cork is a nice, genuine, real cork. Let's pour it into a Glencairn type glass to get the taste there. Colour wise, rich golden treacly colour. May have had some colourings added, although that's not stated on the bottle, but then that's never a deciding factor with myself. A lot of whiskies use colourings. Some ethanol on the nose. I think you're getting that youth. And as I say, this is a 3-year-old whiskey. So you're getting that youth there. Seems a little springy, if you like, a little robust, a little jumpy. But you know, for the price, I mean, I paid. What did I pay for this? I think it was £70.95, so nearly £18, less than £20 anyway. Just because I wanted to experiment, because I've tried the little Islay version, a little like Aldi, the same thing as Aldi do under the Glen Marnoch brand. Little do it under the Ben Bracken brand. They do a Highland, a Speyside, and an Islay, and Glen Marnoch do the same. They do the Speyside, the Highland, and the Islay. This, of course, is the Highland. I think I tried the Glen Marnoch Islay version, and although it was okay, I preferred Lidl's Ben Bracken Islay, but I haven't tried the Glen Marnoch Speyside. But that's for another day. Now we're going to test it on this this Highland version. But what I would like to say once more is how attractive the little tube that it comes in is. So that, you know, this could be a gift for someone. Full marks on Lidl on all these for that. So let's take the whiskey to the nose. As I say, it's very stringent on the nose. It's very jumpy. It's almost as you can tell it's a youthful spirit. It's almost playing mischief with your nasal passages. It's trying to jump out to the glass. There's a certain sweetness though. So let's take it to the palate. Surprisingly smooth. Bit of a burn on the finish. Yeah, a bit of a burn on the finish, but that's surprisingly smooth. And there is definitely a honey note to this. Maybe some fruit, but definitely honey. maybe a slight hint of the oak, but that's surprisingly smooth. Let's add a little bit of water and open this up. We're going to add some Welsh water. Not for any design, but just because it's the only bottle I had in the fridge. So this is some, oh gosh, I can't get it open. This is Brecon Carrig still water. It's actually, this is bottled, taken, the water source this is taken from, it's the same water that's used in the Penderyn Welsh whisky actually. So we're just going to add a tiniest amount, just a couple of little bits to break things up a little bit, not much. A couple of drops like that. Allow that to do its thing, because as I've said before, whiskey, even at 40% ABV, is a very strong drink, and the ethanol, the alcohol that is, can act as a prison on the surface of the whiskey and keep a lot of the flavours, a lot of the notes hidden away. They're almost imprisoned within the strength of this ethanol bars, if you like. But with the addition of a little water, it does break up the whiskey somewhat. So we'll let the water do its thing now, give it a swirl around. The legs on this, again, are decent, you know, I mean, this is not, you know, this is not going to compete alongside a single malt that costs maybe £50. And it certainly wouldn't compete against something that cost in excess of £50. But for the price of this, £20, this is an enjoyable, sweet, honeyed. It's a decent dram. I'm going to Aldi's again tomorrow actually, to do a bit of shopping. So I'll probably pick up the Speyside version of this and review that very soon. Now the water's done its thing, this. Now immediately it's toned down slightly. That burn on the back end is gone. Still honey, being the primary flavour note I'm getting from this. Some light fruits. I'm quite impressed with this for the price. I mean, I didn't know this myself, but when I looked at Glen Marnoch, typed it into the internet to see what whiskies were made, information come up on its year, and it says that many releases are no age statement, NAS, which is basically what this is, though it does have the age statement when it says 3 years old. Though there have been occasional limited older bottlings in the Glen Marnoch range. For example, a 25-year and a 29-year-old and other variants. Now, something like that I'd like to taste. I think that, given what I've experienced with this whiskey, a 29-year-old Glen Marnoch would probably be a pretty good drink. So anyway, let's take another sip of this with water, then we'll add a bit of ice, which is the way I usually drink my scotch. And yeah, honey, some fruit, light fruit, almost a bit of citrus in there. I'm just going to add a couple of small cubes of ice to this. Oh, I can see the Scotch purists now spinning, thinking, the heathen, what's he doing? But you should drink whiskey the way you like. That's something that I point out in my book, A Dark History of Whiskey. You should drink whiskey the way you like, and you shouldn't listen to the whiskey snobs that says the only way to drink whiskey is totally straight, totally neat, and with a face when it burns when it goes down. No, you pay the price, you drink it the way you like. Whether you want to use it as a mixer and something like this, I mean, the price you're paying for this, you could use it as a mixer if you wanted to, although that somehow defeats the purpose of taste sense in a single malt. Mixers, perhaps blended whiskies, are more suitable for mixers, because at least if you if it's a single malt, then you should try and experience the single malt taste. But saying that, if you buy it, a single malt, not only this one but any budget single malt, and it's not to your taste, then it's not going to go to waste, because you can use it as a mixer. Drink it with cola, drink it with ginger beer, drink it with green tea. you know, whiskey is such a versatile drink. Rich mellow Highland single malt whiskey with notes of cinnamon and dried fruit from oak cask maturation. I wasn't getting that cinnamon, I was getting a lot of honey and some light fruity, maybe citrusy flavours. I'll tell you a little whiskey joke while we allow the ice to cool this down slightly. And the addition of ice to this has sort of lightened the colour of this liquid. But it's not gone particularly hazy, so not much filtering is that. So yeah, there's this guy. He's coming home from a pub late in the night. He's had one too many drams, and he trips over, falls down in a country lane, and there's a bottle in the side of the road. His hand brushes the bottle like this, and the bottle spins, and the top pops off this bottle, and a genie comes out. Now, our hero, the man, he's had a few drams in the pub, and he's looking like this, and a genie appears before him. And the genie says, "Thank you for rescuing me from this bottle. I can grant you one wish." And so our hero thinks, as you would, quite logical, as you would, he says, "Do you know, I'd like to urinate the finest whiskey that has ever been tasted. I'd like to urinate superb single malt Scotch whiskey. I'd like to urinate whiskey." The genie goes, "Pachoo," and the genie vanishes, bottle and all. The man continues walking home. After about 5-10 minutes, he feels the need to relieve himself, but then he suddenly remembers the incident with the genie, and so he does relieve himself, but he captures a little bit, just a little bit in his hand, and he goes, and it really is the finest whiskey he's ever tasted. It's an elixir from the gods, true aquavita. Anyway, he goes home, he tells his wife this story. Of course, she's dubious because he's 3 sheets to the wind. But he gets a glass, ready to relieve himself, and urinates into a glass. He picks up that glass and he takes a sip. Then he hands it to his wife and she takes a sip. Reluctantly, I might add, but she takes a sip. And she says, "Oh my God, that is the finest whiskey I have ever tasted." "See, I told you," said the man. Anyway, that's it, basically the story. But he comes home from work the following day, and his wife is sitting waiting for him in the kitchen, and she's got 2 glasses. And she said, I've got 2 glasses ready for when you're ready to go." And he says, "Oh, you'll only need 1 glass tonight." "Tonight," he says, "you're drinking straight from the vessel." That's stupid. Anyway, with a bit of ice. Again, on the sweet side, that honey's there. There is some citrus there. Now logically, the flavours would be subdued now because of the addition of ice. It's chilled the whiskey down. Also, the ice is melting, so it's added even more water to it, so it's proofed it down. So logically, the flavours would be a bit more subdued, but this is how I like it. On its own, neat. It was honey forward. A little bit of burn on the back end. That was the youth of the whiskey. It was a little wayward. It was a little bit of a juvenile. So there was a burn there. With the addition of water, that toned down that burn a little bit. That robustness of it toned down. It was still honey, some fruit, maybe citrus. With the addition of ice, it's become a heck of a lot more smoother. There's honey, still honey. It's keeping that honey. It's keeping that honeyness, maybe some citrus, and maybe a hint of ginger there, or some sort of spice. But it's quite nice. You know, it's enjoyable, and for the price, you can't go wrong. So, you know, if I was reviewing something new, let's take a whiskey, for instance, that I really enjoy. Something like Lefroy, say a 10-year-old Lefroy, cost me about £40. Love that whiskey. That's to my particular tastes. It's a heavily peated Islay whiskey, so that's to my taste. Spend about £40 on that, I really enjoy it. But when you then spend less than half that amount on something like this, Glen Marnoch, and bearing in mind this is not the peated style, the Islay style, which is what I favour. This is a Highland malt, so this is you know, up there with the brands like Glen Marnoch and along all side those budget single malts. But I would comfortably say this is as good as Glen Marnoch. In fact, I thoroughly enjoyed that glass tonight, so thank you for watching. Please give a thumbs up, leave a comment below if you tried this budget malt, and click subscribe. It doesn't cost you nothing. Once more, I'll leave you with an image of Glen Marnoch. Rather attractive packages, isn't it, for such a budget blend? You think that, you know, with a packaging like this, a nice tube, which is in aesthetic terms as attractive as any other whiskey tube you get out there, the expensive whiskies. The bottle, okay, it's a standard clear bottle, but it's quite well labelled. It's got a couple of different colours here, so you'd think that with the money that must have been spent on presentation here of the tube and the bottle, that the liquid inside would be, you know, an afterthought, just a load of crap thrown in a bottle. It's not that. It's an Highland single malt Scotch whisky, Glen Marnoch, not a real distillery, a supermarket name, but Lidl and Aldi's and these budget supermarkets have now for a long time been providing quality, and if you've got a snobbery against their whiskies, then you need to get rid of that because you are missing out. So cheers, Solandre, come back soon.